In a small town called Middleville, two clowns, Wingnut and Mime, stop outside a mini-mart which they plan to rob. When they enter the mart, they point their toy guns at the cashier and a customer who is also inside. The cashier doesn't really understand what's happening, but Wingnut asks where the man put the gooey chewy bars that were just delivered to him. After the cashier points at the candy bars, Wingnut and Mime quickly head there to pick up everything. Before they leave, though, another customer tries to stop them.
Don't make me use this!
But Wingnut pulls up his toy gun and threatens to use it. The man doesn't seem scared of the clowns, but as he nearly attacks them, Wingnut pulls the trigger. Interestingly, this causes a reaction that forces the male customer to start laughing uncontrollably. The cashier and the other customer don't really understand what's happening, but Wingnut also shoots at them before he leaves with Mime. Elsewhere, a boy named Bernie and his friends, IQ and Lens Cap, work together to shoot a short film about a superhero.
Wrongs and fight injustice.
Bernie happens to be playing the superhero, while IQ and Lens Cap are in charge of filming him and adding special effects to their movie. While they're at it, a bully named Russell and his friends approach them to ask what they're doing. Bernie doesn't seem happy to have them around, but IQ tells them about the movie and asks if they want to be the bad guys. Russell doesn't look interested, and he calls them losers. The bully also snatches Lens Cap's viewfinder to look at it. Bernie doesn't like this, and he tells Russell to give it back to Lens Cap.
Yeah, super wimp.
Russell refuses to do this, but Bernie insists that he has to return the viewfinder. Russell still maintains his stance and asks what Bernie is going to do if he doesn't return the viewfinder. Bernie gets pissed by this, but as he tries to attack Russell, he gets knocked to the ground. The viewfinder also gets broken, and Lens Cap looks unhappy. As Russell makes fun of them, Bernie's dog, Splat, walks toward him and pees on his shoes. Russell looks embarrassed by this, and he eventually leaves with his friends. After this, Bernie says sorry to Lens Cap for her broken viewfinder, and he mentions that he should have stopped Russell. Lens Cap says it's not his fault, and she also notices that Bernie got injured in his eye while fighting with Russell. Bernie doesn't seem bothered by this, and he still mentions that he can't even protect his friends. Almost immediately, Wingnut and Mime drive recklessly toward their neighborhood. In the process, a small pack of gooey chewy bars falls out of the truck, but they aren't aware of this. IQ tries to call their attention to stop.
Splat! No boy!
But they don't hear him. Meanwhile, Splat quickly runs toward the candy bars to have some, and Bernie and his friends also take one each. Before they eat their candy bars, IQ makes a toast to them being losers, and Bernie looks sad because that's what everyone sees them as. Elsewhere, Wingnut and Mime deliver all the gooey chewy bars to the factory where they work. Their boss, Dr. Chuckles, then appears on a monitor and scolds them for letting the factory ship his special batch of gooey chewy bars to the wrong addresses.
Who was driving?
Wingnut says they've already gotten all the boxes except one, and this gets Dr. Chuckles pissed. He then laments that losing a box is risky to his plan because one bar of his special candy will make a person immune to his laughter generator. As he asks who was responsible for losing the box, Wingnut points to Mime. Following this, Chuckles calls Mime's phone and says a trigger word that makes Mime laugh uncontrollably until he goes unconscious.
Cheers. To the lamos.
Chuckles then tells Wingnut to find the missing box, using the tracker that was placed on it. Wingnut asks what would happen if someone has already eaten one, and Chuckles tells him to find the person and bring him to the factory. He also tells Wingnut to work discreetly because he doesn't want to attract the attention of the World Intelligence Team. Meanwhile, it is reported on the news that the President of the United States and other world leaders will soon be headed to Paris to sign a treaty that will usher in world peace.
I want you to close your eyes.
The news comes on while Bernie is having dinner, but he doesn't seem interested because he's secretly giving his food to Splat. Suddenly, his dad, Paul, comes to the table to ask if he's enjoying the food. Bernie tries not to tell his dad that the food is very bad, but Paul already knows this. He then says that he knows the food isn't as good as the one his late wife used to make. Bernie looks sad when he hears this, and Paul asks if he still misses his mom. Bernie says he does, and Paul mentions that he misses misses her too.
All right, what's up, kiddo?
He then tries to cheer Bernie up by telling a joke he heard at work earlier in the day. Bernie tells his dad that he's not in the mood for that, and Paul asks what's wrong. Bernie then asks if Paul ever gets tired of being a nobody. Before Paul can respond, Bernie corrects himself and says that he didn't really mean it in an offensive way because he knows that they need the extra money Paul earns from his job as a school janitor. Paul says he understands, and that Bernie needs to know that everyone has value.
It's okay, we all have value.
Bernie doesn't believe this, and he mentions that his value is probably to be someone's punching bag. Paul asks if Bernie is talking about what happened earlier with Russell, and he mentions that he tried helping someone but still messed up, as he calls himself a loser. Paul says he's not one. He adds that Bernie has one of the biggest hearts of anyone he has ever met, and that he actually got that from his late mom. He also mentions that he sees how Bernie stands up for his friends.
Okay, so that's what this is all.
Bernie says they're losers, but Paul tells him that they're not. He adds that even though they might be small, they all have value. After this, Paul jokes with Bernie and says that he can go to his room to start his homework. As Bernie then leaves the table, Paul tells him not to forget that everyone has value and God doesn't make junk. Later that night, while Bernie is brushing his teeth before going to bed, he plays around in the bathroom and pretends to be a better fighter who can protect his friends from bullies like Russell. While he's at it, he accidentally knocks down a picture of him and his mom.
1,000 times. Boom, 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 boom.
As he picks it up, he remembers a time from the past when he heard his parents arguing just outside his room. On that day, Bernie left the gate open and almost lost Splat, and this got Paul pissed. Paul then says that he sometimes wonders if Bernie has a brain, but his wife tells him not to say that. She also mentions that God doesn't make junk, but Paul says it's not what he meant. His wife then tells him that he doesn't have to say it because it's what Bernie thinks. She also tells him to talk to Bernie and make him feel better. Even though Paul is initially hesitant, he eventually decides to do it.
Sometimes I wonder if he even has a brain in that.
However, as he knocks on the door, Bernie looks sad and says nothing because he heard everything his dad said. Back in the present, Bernie keeps staring at his mom's picture, and he mentions that he doesn't know what else to do about the situation with Russell. He adds that he's only standing up for his rights and that he misses his mom so much. Elsewhere at the World Intelligence Team building, an agent named 02 invites his girlfriend over for a dinner date. Just as he pours a drink for her,
Madam Secretary.
his boss, the Secretary of Defense, calls him via video to see what's happening at the station. Agent 02 quickly blocks his girlfriend to prevent the secretary from seeing her, and he mentions that he's the only one at the station. The secretary then mentions that the secret warehouse and weapons headquarters of Dr. Chuckles have been traced to his district. As the agent's girlfriend keeps trying to see who he's talking to, the secretary asks if he's with someone. Agent 02 quickly denies this and says that there's no one with him.
Into nothing but laughing mayhem.
This gets his girlfriend pissed, and she walks away angrily while the secretary tells Agent 02 that she has got incredible information which indicates that Dr. Chuckles plans to destroy the upcoming World Peace Conference, which holds the next day in Paris. She adds that Chuckles has developed a giant laugh generator that will send the world into uncontrollable fits of laughter. As she says that Agent 02 must stop the machine at all costs, he accidentally sets the table on fire,
And find out what he knows. The quiet.
and his sleeves also get caught up in it. Interestingly, he hides this quite well and tells the secretary that he'll work on the mission. The secretary then says that Agent 02 must know that Chuckles' agents have stolen gooey chewy bars from all across Middleville. Agent 02 asks how that's important, and the secretary says it is believed that Chuckles has created a special batch of bars with a unique ingredient that will protect him and his workers from the effects of the laugh generator. She adds that the bars might also protect Agent 02 against the laugh generator, but that he'll have to get the last box that Chuckles failed to retrieve.
Warehouse and weapons headquarters of the notorious.
She then shows Agent 02 a video of Bernie throwing the box into the trash. Agent 02 says that Bernie looks dangerous, and the secretary tells him to bring Bernie in and find out what he knows. She adds that Agent 02 must work discreetly so that he won't attract Chuckles' attention. The next day, Paul goes to wake Bernie up for school, but he seems reluctant to get out of bed. Paul then decides to go alone, and he tells Bernie that they'll see each other later. As he leaves the house, Agent 02 appears to be around, and he heads toward the door to pick the lock. Coincidentally, Wingnut has also just arrived at the house, and he breaks in through the window.
Yeah, me too.
After Agent 02 struggles with the lock for a while, he eventually realizes that the door is open. As he walks in, he gets to the kitchen and ends up falling to the ground after stepping on the slippery floor. Wingnut also scatters a few things while walking around, and the strange sounds in the house wake Bernie up. He initially thinks it's his dad, but as he continues hearing the strange noises, he wakes Splat up and tells him to be alert. Shortly after, Agent 02 and Wingnut see each other inside the house. As they start throwing things at each other, Bernie picks up a bat and quietly leaves his room. Almost immediately, Wingnut gets the upper hand in his fight against Agent 02, but as he climbs the stairs, he bumps into Bernie, who knocks him down with the bat. As Agent 02 then throws Wingnut out of the house, Bernie comes downstairs and asks what's going on.
What's going on?
Agent 02 then pulls out a remote control and tells Bernie not to make him use it. Bernie thinks it's just a TV remote, but Agent 02 presses a button to freeze him. Shortly after, Bernie is taken to the World Intelligence Team building, and he asks Agent 02 why he's there. The agent then mentions that the government needs him. As Bernie sees the agent's ID, he says that he has never heard of the World Intelligence Team. Agent 02 says he'll never hear about them because they're so secret that they don't even exist. He then asks about the gooey chewy bar that Bernie picked up the previous day. Bernie says he ate it already, and the agent laments about this. As Bernie asks what's wrong, Agent 02 tells him about Chuckles and says that he's a clown who plans to destroy the upcoming World Peace Conference using the laugh generator. He adds that Chuckles is going to broadcast the laugh generator's special frequency to every cell phone in the world.
You ate it. In its entirety.
So that everyone will break into uncontrollable fits of laughter. Bernie asks what's wrong with laughter, and Agent 02 says that Chuckles is sending out the mean one. He also mentions that Chuckles has found a place to unleash the power of his machine as part of his plan to destroy world peace. As a news report comes on about the world peace event, Bernie asks what would happen if everyone starts laughing and playing mean jokes on each other, and Agent 02 says it would lead to World War III. Elsewhere, in Chuckles' secret lair, Chuckles says he can no longer wait for Wingnut to return because he's ready to turn on the laugh generator. Meanwhile, as the President of the United States addresses his citizens on TV, Agent 02 tells Bernie that the candy bar he ate is probably from a batch that was specially made to protect Chuckles and his agent.
Meet Dr. Chuckles.
He adds that if that's the case, Bernie might be the only one who can save the world. Bernie doesn't think he can do that, but Agent 02 says that he'll have to find Chuckles' lair and destroy the laugh generator. Suddenly, an emergency security alarm comes on, and Agent 02 tells Bernie that it seems Chuckles is already preparing to fire up the generator. Almost immediately, Chuckles does just this, and the President of the United States starts laughing uncontrollably on live TV. He also pushes the reporters present at his briefing to the ground while still laughing. As it starts affecting Agent 02, Bernie looks shocked and asks what they'll do to stop Chuckles. However, Agent 02 mentions that Bernie is the only one who can stop Chuckles. He also gives Bernie a special bag and tells him to save the world. Bernie doesn't think he can do this because he's just a kid, but Agent 02 says that he's the world's only hope to stop the war. As Agent 02 starts laughing uncontrollably, Bernie leaves the building and goes to meet his friends. He then tells them everything Agent 02 said, and IQ mentions that they might be able to save the world together because they all ate the candy bars. Coincidentally, Wingnut happens to be in the neighborhood and he hides inside a trash can when he sees them. As IQ then sounds excited about being a hero, he knocks down the trash can before walking away with his friends. Wingnut gets hurt in the process, but before he gets out of the trash trash can, a cat attacks him. Meanwhile, Bernie gets home with his friends, and IQ sees the bag that Agent 02 gave him. He finds a tablet inside, and before he does anything, a secret agent orientation video comes on. IQ then watches the video and learns how to use some of the World Intelligence Team's devices, which include a slow-mo explosive device, a banana peel launcher, a dancing disco ball,
And greatest gizmo, the Inviso-Bee.
an invisibility device, and a pair of cell phone socks. As he then checks the bag, he sees the devices and looks amazed. Almost immediately, the cell phone socks start ringing, and IQ quickly gives them to Bernie. When Bernie answers the phone, the caller happens to be Agent 02, who mentions that the conference is going to start in 90 minutes. As he continues laughing uncontrollably, he tells Bernie that it's up to him to save the world. Bernie still doesn't think he's capable of saving the world, but the call ends. As Bernie says that the world will get destroyed, LensCap mentions that they can still do something if they have a plan. IQ asks if she has one, and LensCap says that the first thing they have to do is to know their enemy. Shortly after, while they're talking about Chuckles' background, Wingnut tries to get into Bernie's room using a ladder, but he ends up falling badly before another cat attacks him.
After she got ran over.
Meanwhile, the kids realize that Chuckles got bullied a lot as a kid, and despite being smart, people still made fun of him. After a failed invention that made him a laughingstock of the entire world, he eventually changed careers to become a clown. Even though things started nicely for him, with some kids enjoying his tricks, he failed to make it big because people still thought he wasn't good enough. At this point, he got angry and became determined to humiliate the world with mean humor. IQ asks how knowing about Chuckles might help them, and Bernie says that they might be able to reason with him. As IQ says that they have to find him first, the doorbell rings and the kids look surprised. Interestingly, it turns out to be Wingnut, who is posing to be an ice cream seller despite being badly injured. LensCap mentions that he looks terrible, but he says that he's fine. As he thinks about entering the house, he asks if Bernie has a cat, and he says that he does. Wingnut then mentions that he has a cat allergy,
Congratulations!
but that Bernie can come with him to check out the different ice cream flavors he has in his truck. LensCap tries to stop Bernie from going, but he says that it's fine. As LensCap and IQ then return into the house while talking about how terrible the clown looks, they suddenly hear Bernie calling for them to help him. LensCap and IQ are shocked by this, and as they head outside, they see that Wingnut has kidnapped Bernie. They immediately leave the house to save their friend, and they even borrow a scooter and a bicycle so they can follow the truck. Luckily, the truck runs out of gas before Wingnut can escape, and as he angrily hits the steering wheel, he gets slammed in the face by the airbag. This makes him very weak, and as he leaves the truck, he passes out. IQ then finds Wingnut's gas can and refuels the truck. Following this, LensCap decides to drive, but the kids don't know where to go. IQ eventually sees a GPS monitor inside the truck that shows where Wingnut lives, since it might lead them directly to Chuckles.
I know. I bet this is going to lead.
The kids head there immediately. When they get to the entrance of the secret lair, IQ rings the doorbell, and a pre-recorded voice message tells the kids to answer a security question before they can be allowed in. Even though they struggle with it for a while, IQ eventually gets it, and the gate opens. As they then enter the factory, Chuckles' agents immediately get notified about this, and they start running around to plan their next move. Meanwhile, Bernie and his friends enter a roller coaster that takes them to another part of the factory. When they get there, though, Chuckles' agents nearly attack them, but IQ brings out the slow-mo explosive device and throws it at them. With this, he's able to escape to another room with his friends. There, Chuckles appears on a monitor and seems impressed that they found his lair. He mentions that he could use them on his team, but LensCap says they would never work for him. Chuckles says there's nothing wrong with laughter, but Bernie mentions that he needs to stop being mean.
Yes, your poor father.
He adds that his dad once told him that everyone deserves honor and respect from others. Chuckles doesn't care about this, and he shows Bernie that Paul is also suffering from the effects of the laugh generator. As Bernie and his friends start insulting him, they suddenly get trapped in a small cell with laser bars. Chuckles then mentions that their meanness created their special prison. He also tells them that they're in his insult room, and that he won't let them go until they agree to join him. Elsewhere, Wingnut meets a doctor at the factory and complains about how he's underappreciated by Chuckles, despite everything he does. He adds that he thinks Chuckles isn't really bad on the inside, and that he once tried to use his humor for good. After this, Wingnut then talks about the possibility of replacing Chuckles as the new leader of the clowns. Almost immediately, Chuckles calls Wingnut
Who could that be?
to watch the kids in their cell. As Bernie looks disappointed, Agent 02 calls him again through the cell phone socks. He then tells Bernie that the world leaders are already in Paris and that the meeting will start in about an hour. Bernie says he's not the right person for the job, but Agent 02 keeps encouraging him. He also mentions that Paul called earlier and left a message for Bernie about junk. The call eventually ends, and Bernie remembers what Paul told him earlier about God not creating junk. As he says this to his friends, one of the laser beams disappears, and the kids realize that if they say nice things about each other, they'll be able to free themselves. Wingnut looks shocked by this, but as the kids do this, they escape before anyone can catch them. After they find the laugh generator, the kids look confused as to how to get it to stop. Chuckles' agents eventually find them there, but the kids still manage to avoid getting caught. As they then see where Chuckles is hiding, Lenscap throws one of the toy guns in the room to Bernie, who immediately goes to confront Chuckles. When Bernie enters Chuckles' secret room, Chuckles says that he's already late because the leaders are now together, and they won't sign the treaty because they'll end up doing mean things to each other. Bernie looks disappointed by this, but he still points the toy gun at Chuckles, who begs him not to use it. Bernie refuses to listen to him, but Chuckles says that he hates laughter. He adds that he even tried to be funny by working at the circus, but people always made fun of him and called him worthless. Bernie says that no one is worthless and that God doesn't create junk. Chuckles initially pretends to listen to him, but he eventually snatches the gun and shoots at Bernie. Suddenly, Bernie starts laughing uncontrollably, but he still manages to tell Chuckles that he shouldn't let the world remember him as a bad person. Chuckles says that the world must suffer for what they did to him.
Place now!
No, please! Please!
But Bernie plays him an old video showing how kids used to enjoy his tricks and jokes at parties. Chuckles feels sad as he watches it, and Bernie keeps telling him to think about how much joy he brought to people. Suddenly, Wingnut sees them together and quickly runs to tell Chuckles that Bernie is only trying to trick him. Chuckles doesn't believe this, and he sends Wingnut away. Bernie then tells Chuckles to create a laugh generator that makes people laugh with him, just like the kids in the video were doing. Meanwhile, as Lenscap and IQ continue fighting the clowns, Wingnut increases the intensity of the laugh generator, and it causes the building to shake. Chuckles eventually heads down to stop the machine, but Wingnut keeps turning it back on. Almost immediately, Splat pees on the socket powering the machine. As it then stops working, Bernie praises his dog for doing the right thing. However, Chuckles suddenly changes his mind and tells his clowns to seize the kids.
Nice to meet you.
Before they can do this, Bernie tells them some of his dad's jokes, and they all find it funny. Chuckles also laughs at the jokes, and Bernie asks if he now sees how happy he is with the right kind of laughter. He adds that Chuckles can change the world with his genius and the right kind of humor. As Chuckles considers this, Wingnut tells the other clowns not to listen to him. He adds that he'll be their new leader and that they can take over the world together. Chuckles doesn't like this, so he throws his cat at Wingnut, despite knowing about his allergy. After this, Agent 02 calls again, and as IQ answers the phone, he mentions that the agent wants Chuckles and the clowns to surrender. Chuckles agrees to do this, and he tells his fellow clowns that it's time for them to work toward making the world a better place. After this, they're all arrested for what they did, and Agent 02 rewards Bernie, Lenscap, IQ, and Splat by officially making them secret agents of the World Intelligence Team.
For you.
Bernie looks happy about this, and as he sees his dad, he goes to meet him. After he hugs his dad, Paul mentions that the Secretary of Offense liked Bernie's suggestion to get Chuckles to use his gift to make the world a better place. He adds that if Chuckles agrees, he might only get probation. Bernie looks happy about this, and they eventually walk away from the scene. A few days later, while Bernie is on his way home from school, he sees Russell sitting alone and tearing some pages from his book. Even though Bernie remembers what Russell did to him, he goes to ask what's wrong. Russell says he's supposed to write a paper for his English class, and Bernie mentions that it's not so bad. Russell says it's bad for him because he's not as smart as Bernie. As he looks pissed and calls himself a loser, Bernie offers to help him out with the paper. Russell doesn't believe this, and he thanks Bernie for helping him.
Oh, like you said, this stuff comes easy for me.
Shortly after, as Bernie heads home, he sees an agent's bag on the ground, but he tries to ignore it. The cell phone's socks then start ringing, and as Bernie decides to answer it, Agent 02 tells him to enter the car that just pulled up to his street. Even though Bernie hesitates because he has a spelling test to prepare for, Agent 02 insists that he has to enter the car because his country needs him. After Bernie does this, he looks surprised to see that there's no driver in the car, but Agent 02 says that it's fine. Following this, Bernie sits quietly, and the car leaves the scene. After constantly being hard on himself for not being able to protect his friends against bullies,
Talking to nobody who isn't driving?
Bernie eventually gets recruited by a special agent to stop Chuckles' evil plan. Even though he didn't think he could do it, he worked with his friends to convince Chuckles to change his mind and become a good person. Chuckles initially seemed bent on making the world suffer for how it always made him feel sad and worthless, but Bernie encouraged him to forget about that and focus on making the world a better place with happy people. Sometimes people act mean because they're hurt, but with kindness and a second chance, they can find their way back.